No, we're just gonna.
Just from there?
We're just gonna do that, because we can't do like.
And that's gonna pick up your mic and everything?
I don't think so. I think we
Okay.
were okay last year.
All right, well, we're going live.
Okay. We did, but I just started your spot.
Yeah.
Oh, we do one, bro. Oh my God, that's hilarious.
All right, y'all sit down. We're done.
This is what happens when you put a group of librarians together.
All right, so thanks for joining us this afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our ISTE Librarians Network Forum on school library makerspaces, and not just school library makerspaces. So I'm really excited to introduce this great panel that we put together for you guys. The way that this is going to work, each of our panelists are going to come up and introduce themselves, talk about their library, their makerspace, their program, and then we're going to have lots of time at the end, hopefully, for questions from you guys, because I know that there's lots of questions about getting started with a makerspace, how to implement, how to find the time to make it work. So hopefully that's what you will take away from this discussion today. So we have 4 great librarians here who are going to share about their makerspace, and we feel like we've got all of the bases covered here. So Heidi Neltner is the teacher librarian at Robert G. Johnson Elementary. She's going to share about her makerspace. Diana Rendina, the media specialist at Stewart Middle Magnet School, is actually my makerspace inspiration. So I'm really excited that she's here with us. Sarah Winchowky from, and I said it wrong anyway, I'm sorry. I wrote it down like with words and everything. Sarah Winchowky from the Free Library of Philadelphia is here. She's going to share about her program. And then Elissa Malespina is going to give us an administrator's perspective on how to kind of sell your makerspace idea to your administration at your school and district. So without further ado, Heidi is going to come up and share first.
Hi guys, I hope everybody had a good lunch and instead of feeling too tired right now. So my name is Heidi Neltner, and I'm the teacher librarian at Johnson Elementary in Fort Thomas, Kentucky. Just some things to tell you about my library. We are an elementary school, K through 5. I have about 380 students, and I'm on a fixed schedule. My budget is not big. In fact, for my makerspace, I don't really have a budget. I just kind of pull from PTO grants, book fair, proceeds, some of that. And I spend my own money like most teachers in my building do. We have a physical and what I would consider a digital makerspace that we utilize. And as far as my library itself goes, the technology I have 5 computers, a smart board, access to Surface tablets, and about 5 iPads per class. So that's what I have to work with technology-wise. I was inspired to create a makerspace through researching the NGSS, that's the Next Generation Science Standards. I feel like there's a lot of engineering things that my teachers had anxiety about. So I started looking into ways to sort of implement some engineering into the library, and the makerspace seemed like the perfect way to do that. And we began with Legos. And so what I did was on my personal Facebook page, I just threw out there and asked if anybody had Legos they wanted to get rid of. And I had a donation in about 10 minutes, and I would say there was probably about $5,000 worth of Legos in this gigantic box. I was so overwhelmed, but I mean, it was just wonderful, this donation. So then I needed something to do with the Legos, so I put out another request to see if anybody had a coffee table they wanted to get rid of. And lo and behold, in 10 minutes, I had this coffee table that I painted with chalkboard paint and turned into a Lego table. And that was about $70. Not too bad. So that's where our Makerspace started. And one of the first activities that I had students do was across a number of classes. They built this setting for, because of Winn-Dixie, that was what we did for one local school. I then introduced the Maker Centers right before winter break. And the first day was a disaster. I spent all this time like making these awesome signs, like, we're gonna make stuff, guys. There were 6 centers, and I had I-can statements and QR codes, and when the kids showed up, I was like, all right, make. And they looked at me like I was crazy. They kept just looking at me and like playing stuff at the table, like, really, this is all you want us to do? So the next day I came in and I gave them a theme. And the theme that we used was for Because of Winn-Dixie, and I just said, make something that would demonstrate a lesson or a character or something that you learned in Because of Winn-Dixie. So in our little music center, they were picking out instruments that they thought different characters would sound like, and they were playing the instruments on GarageBand. They did do coding, we had snap circuit kits. I had a Raspberry Pi that they were kind of messing around with. We did do some art. It was a great experience. Once I settled on the fact that I had to give them a controlling idea to work with. So the first day though. I then expanded into Maker Recess, and my 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade kids can come in 2 days a week and work on things that they enjoy. A lot of them use coding, use Scratch a lot of times, or code.org. They can mess around and make marble runs and do different things on the Lego table if they want, or they can get out the snap circuits and do that at Maker Recess. Then at the end of the year, I use the Maker Center as inspiration for Genius Hour and project-based learning. So we front-loaded a lot of research with Genius Hour and different projects. And then at the end of that, the kids used Makerspace as an inspiration for the project that they were going to share with their class. So 1st grade did an author study for their project-based learning, and they proposed the kind of projects that they wanted to make. So if you look up there in the left corner, one of the groups said that they wanted to make stuffed animals. Well, I don't sew, and they were 1st graders, and it made me really nervous. And so I just started asking, well, what would you need to make a stuffed animal? And they gave me a list that made a lot of sense. So I bought a hot glue gun and burned the heck out of my fingers trying to help them. But that is a student-produced stuffed animal, and I glued it, so that's why there's stuffing coming out. It would look better if they had done it. And then one of the other projects that we did next to that is they built a setting for Libria from the Tommy T. Paola books, and they used the details from the books to do that. That was 1st grade. On the bottom picture, some project-based learning, we see a Raspberry Pi, and I had the kids research the Raspberry Pi and then they had to pitch an idea for how to use it in the library. And I created a rubric, and they had to be persuasive. And the winning group decided that we should buy a camera and then turn it into a tweeting center where they could tweet about their books. So I turned the Raspberry Pi over to that group. They started working on the coding, and we ran out of days for that to actually happen, so they were sending it at me. They were going to come back at the beginning of next year and finish it as 5th graders. So those are just some of the things that we've done as far as the Genius Hour project-based learning. So from here, next year I've already got some things in the works with other teachers. We're going to be doing some after-school events. We're going to build a butterfly garden to help protect the monarch butterflies. I'm going to do that with a Spanish teacher. We're going to get into aquaponics gardening with 3rd grade teachers. I have to do a lot of grant writing to make this happen. I've also set up a website where Kentucky teachers or anybody can post ideas on kymakes.weebly.com, and we can share standards that things would fit, or make I can statements and give links. And then there's a Google form that people can access to see all different kinds of makerspace ideas. I'm going to be collaborating with our guidance counselor to do maker recess events where kids can come in and make a craft that would go along with our monthly behavior theme. And we are going to be working on Minecrafting U and implementing that with teachers and after school and before school activities. So that's where I'm headed, and that's my elementary fixed schedule makerspace.
So I'm Diana Rendina. I'm a media specialist at Stewart Middle Magnet School in Tampa, Florida. We're a Title I STEM magnet school located near downtown Tampa, and I've been there for about 5 years. That's the forward stuff. I blog at renovatelearning.com, and I've also started blogging for AASL Knowledge. So you ready? It hasn't started officially yet. So anyway, our makerspace at Stewart. A couple of years ago, I was trying to find ways to bring STEM into my library. I had wanted to since I first got it started. I had really liked the idea of some kind of interactive space, kind of like a children's museum, where kids could explore STEM with a variety of materials. Right around the same time, I started hearing this word makerspace and hearing about this thing called the Maker Education Initiative. And I was so hyped and so excited. And I was talking to all of my teachers about it. It's like, you've got to hear about this makerspace thing. And they had no clue what I was talking about. But one of my teachers, our lead teacher, I was explaining this idea, the kids are going to come and they're going to build stuff and make things. And she's like, oh, we've got these connects in our storage room. I guess our science curriculum used them as part of the class 10 years ago, but they changed the curriculum. And so, of course, it became curriculum material graveyard where they were just sitting there not being used. So we took them off. And this picture is literally the first hour of our makerspace. I just took these bins of connects. I pushed a couple of library tables together in our instructional area, and I left them out and just let the kids play with them. And that was just the beginning. They got so excited. They were making things. They were building stuff. And we knew that we wanted to take that from there and kind of really start creating a more permanent space in our library for our kids to make. So from there, last summer, we started working on creating a permanent physical makerspace in our library. Because when we just had the bins of stuff out on tables, we'd have to put them away when there were meetings, or when we had book fairs or things like that, and my kids were getting traumatized by being deprived of their Legos. So this was the corner of my library. That's actually several years ago around when I first got there. The kids really liked to hang out in this corner because it had the comfy chairs, but they were always bumping into the computer table. They were bumping into each other. It was really dark and hard to see the books back there. It wasn't a space that was being used really well. So over the years, I had done a lot of meeting. I've been condensing the collection, moving it around. And so last summer, we took down those library shelves. And I got a grant from Lowe's Toolbox for Education for paint and some furniture and things like that. So we painted, I got a bunch of volunteers together, and I started brainstorming these ideas. And I had been meeting with my students during the year and showing them pictures from Pinterest and getting ideas of what they wanted this space to look like. So eventually we transformed it into this. And this is our library makerspace. It's just one corner of our library. We've got a whiteboard wall where the kids can brainstorm on ideas. We've got a Lego wall where they can build Legos, which is super fun and awesome. And then there's just materials out there and things available. If you see that little door back in the corner, this is what that room is. It used to be our video storage room where we kept all our VHSs and DVDs. But I didn't really think it needed to be connected to the main room of the library, so I moved those materials back further into the back storage room. And this became our maker storage room. So we've got places where we can store supplies and projects. The kids can store their in-progress things back here too. And that kind of made a second space where we could have more stuff available and it could kind of spill out into the rest of the library. So this is our epic Lego wall, close and person. This is probably my favorite part of our makerspace. It's like the first thing that you see when you come into the room, it just catches your eye, and it really sets the tone for our kids that this is a space where you get to have fun, you get to create and build things and explore, and they love it. It's so fun. That's the whiteboard wall that's adjacent to it. That was the very first day we got it set up. I just got some whiteboard paint from Donors Choose. I think it was like $200 for the paint, which wasn't that bad. And we painted that one wall, let it cure up, and now the kids can write and draw on it. And even though we had had a whiteboard mounted to the wall in my library before, when you paint a wall and the kids are allowed to write on the walls, it really changes it for them. It's like they're getting to be deviant without getting in trouble. So they have a lot of fun with that. Sometimes you'll see the kids brainstorming. Our math league team would actually come during lunch and they would practice writing their algebra equations on it. There's lots of hashtags because it's middle school. But they have a lot of fun with that, and it's been a really good interactive space for them. We have a lot of other makerspace activities that we have available to our students. Sometimes we have them out like kind of center style where the kids can explore them in the library. Sometimes they're back in the maker room and the kids bring them out as they want to work on projects. So we have things like Spiro up in that top left corner, which is a robotic ball. They have them in the vendor hall. Check them out. They are. Actually, I think almost all of these are in the vendor hall. So look at the vendor hall. We have little bits, which are in that top right-hand corner. Cubelets, which are in the bottom right, which are little cubes that connect together with magnets to kind of create robots. And then we also do Makey Makey, which is lots of fun. We do different times for students to be able to use the makerspace. I've tried to make as many different avenues for my students to access the space as possible because I want as many students as I can to get to use it. So one thing that my school started doing this year is we have a different schedule on Monday. My district gets out an hour early. So we've dedicated the last hour of that day to tutoring and clubs. So one grade will be in tutoring, another grade will be in clubs, another grade will be doing a different activity, and then they rotate. So every week I have a different group of 50 to 60 kids coming into my library for our STEAM club because I can really catch me for it. So they'll come and we have it set up kind of where there's different stations throughout the library. So at one station they might be doing origami, another station might be Legos, but the snap circuits in one place. So they're kind of exploring different things. I've designed it for them to be really self-sufficient because it's me and one other teacher in the room during that time with 60 kids. And there's no way that I can really give them all individual attention and instruction. So it's kind of a free form, they get to try whatever interests them, explore different things. And it's a lot of fun because it's getting a lot of kids exposed to the makerspace. And it gives them an hour of time where that's all they have to do. And they don't have to worry about getting back to their class on time or doing some kind of project that they're really supposed to be doing or stuff like that. I've also done an after-school STEAM club at my school. Since we're a magnet school and we're a really large district, some of my students are coming from as much as an hour away. So I don't have a lot of students participating in after-school activities. But I do have a good handful that tend to do the after-school program where they get to stay till 5:30 and then their parents pick them up. And with that group, we had about 15 or 20 kids, depending on the week, that would meet twice a week. And we work on different in-depth projects. What we started doing with that group was design challenges, where the kids would be given a specific challenge, and then they would have about a month to work on their projects and put stuff together. This one was part of our catapult challenge, which we did in collaboration with Colleen Graves at Lamar Middle School. And it really quickly became a make something that flings something across the room challenge, preferably without hitting another student. So that's actually a trebuchet that they built, which they schooled me on the fact that trebuchets are not catapults. I didn't know that. And then we met Colleen's students in a Google Hangout, which you can see them in the background, and we shared projects together at the end. So it was great because it was kind of like a little mini maker fair at the end of our thing. And the students were getting to meet these students in Texas that they would never meet otherwise. And it was kind of nice because it gave them a bigger incentive to finish their projects because they really wanted to impress the kids from Lamar. So that made it a lot more fun. During school, the Makerspace is also open for students just to come in and use throughout the day. We're a flexible schedule school, so students will come to the library throughout the day, usually on passes from their teachers. Sometimes the teacher might bring in the class to use the computer lab, to use the tables, check out books. So a lot of times the Makerspace also kind of fills in those little pockets of time that would normally just be wasted. So while students are waiting for their friends to finish checking out their books, they might go build something really quickly with the Legos. Whereas otherwise, they'd just be sitting there on their phone or playing a game on the computer or wreaking havoc, as middle schoolers do. So it's become a nice place for my students. We also get a lot of kids coming during lunch. The students are allowed to come to the library after they've finished eating. And so that allows more students to get to come in and use the space throughout the day.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Sarah, and I am with the Maker John Initiative at the Free Library of Philadelphia. And my presentation, I'm a little bit different. I'm actually not a librarian. So I am the project manager for the Maker John Initiative. And we have, the way that things are set up for us is we are in 6 different public libraries in the library system for Philadelphia. And so my goal as the project manager for Maker John and Making is to build a community through making, because it's volunteer, it's not in a school, you don't have a captive audience, and so they have to want to come in order to be a part of these spaces. So the first thing, I said John. Everybody, if you're not from Philly and if you're a little bit younger or whatever, I didn't know what it was. I'm not a native Philadelphian. So I just wanted to let everybody know what a John is. And I'm just going to read this. It's a context-dependent substitute noun. So the term originated, yes. It originated in the Philadelphia's hip-hop scene in the 1970s, and it can be used to replace any noun. So there's a couple of examples up there, but when we were trying to figure out a name for ourselves, we thought we want something that is unique, but we want something that's really Philadelphia. And so this is perfect for making, because you can make it what you want, but it is really all about Philadelphia and making. So. The maker movement. So the maker movement, in at least for our life, is really hands-on creation. It's promoting STEM, stream. I heard stream. We added R in there for reading and a couple other things. It's actually been amazing, all the different things that come out of this. But one of our emphases is on new technology, because the individuals that we service, which I'll talk about in a little bit, don't have access to that kind of thing. So some of the constraints that we've had, which it really is all around, is it's expensive, it can be expensive, and it can be hard to start if you don't have expertise in some of the things. So something we've noticed is that if you don't have expertise, people are really hesitant to get involved with making, because they don't want to do it wrong. So they just don't do it at all. And that is not what making is all about. So just to come full circle here for Maker John, we started in the summer of 2013 with Maker Core, and then in the fall of 2013, present to today, basically, is we have been doing after-school programming, and we've also been building what we're calling a Maker Mentor team, and that, to some extent, is as important as the Makerspaces, because we technically don't have Makerspaces. So all of the places that we go, we come in and we bring our stuff, and then we go away, and we don't have equipment that stays there day in and day out. So our capital is not in equipment, but in our staff. And so that's one of the things that we really want to make sure that we take care of and use to the fullest extent. We're currently in 6 different libraries throughout Philadelphia. However, primarily we're in North Philly. And that is because it is one of the poorest areas of Philly. It is very under-resourced. And it also has primarily Hispanic and African American. Those are the two primary groups in North Philly. And so they tend to, at least in the areas, the libraries that we are, they don't have access to a lot of things. And the libraries that we're in, they're kind of the places where people come for community. So the goals of our program are technological literacy, engaging students, and actually now we recently got a $500,000 grant from IMLS, it's a leadership grant, and so we are working with adults as well as children now. Our spaces are interest-driven, and the whole purpose is to build community with students. So that being said, one of our awesome projects that one of my maker mentors came up with was to use the little bits to do Morse code between libraries. Because it is amazing. So another thing is that in so when she was talking about the Skyping in and seeing different people in different parts of the country, in Philadelphia, the kids, it might as well be a different state because they don't cross certain roads. A lot of them live in a 2-mile radius for the first 18 plus years of their life. And so Girard is one of those roads, Broad Street is another one of those roads. They don't cross. So these students may never even meet and they live in the same city. And so this is one of those things that we might, this is great because there's so many pieces of it. When somebody told me the first time, I went, oh my gosh, there's so many different facets to this. We talk about how Morse code was one of the ways to communicate, and there wasn't email, there weren't cell phones, and you can talk about history, and it's a different language. Morse code is different. So, and then what we did was they had to make their little bits, Morse code things. Then they had to learn how to use Morse code. They also videotaped themselves doing the Morse code because then we would they would put it up on YouTube, and then the other library could bring it up, and they had to decode it and respond back in Morse code. And so, yes, it was a little bit of a process, but all those pieces that went into it, it just makes for an amazing project. So it isn't over, but it just is, and online, I think you can find them, so if you're interested, you can decode the messages yourself as well. A couple other things I just wanted to talk about really quickly is we do collaborative filmmaking, and so we do all the different parts of filmmaking and have the kids doing props and costumes, and sometimes we use books as the basis, and sometimes they write their own, and they reenact their own scripts. And so that's one of the things that has been really awesome too, because it's hands-on as well. So you have people who can be using technology behind the scenes. You can, if you're interested in doing hands-on, if you're interested in acting, whatever, it gives everybody an opportunity to work together, whether or not you want to actually be on the screen. Another thing we have done as a collaborative between all of our libraries is we did the Kensington Sculpture Derby, and it's basically you have to design a bicycle or some sort of wheeled thing, and we actually won, which I didn't put in here, I should have. We won an award for having the most people. We were the best float that had 10 plus people in it. So our theme was, was obviously reading, free library, but we had all the kids from around all of the locations designing, and then we created the basic parts of what went on the bike. So it was another one of those collaborative projects, even though they didn't actually meet and do this together, they did. and future plans. So our future plans, and by the way, all these pictures are of things that we, throughout the presentation, have been things that we have been doing in our locations. So this is the makey, using pretzels. We thought that was appropriate. But our future plans are we have the MLS grant for a couple of years, but funding is really based on grants. So for us, it's all about the grants. And so anything that we do in the future will have to be supported by grants that we receive. So that's our hashtag, and that is if anybody's interested, we have curriculum and we have pictures and blogs and all kinds of things on our makerspaces.org webpage. So please feel free to check us out. Thanks so much.
So now I'm going to talk to you for a minute, and I promise to be quick because we want to get your questions as part of it. And for me to be quick, that's like you should get an award for that because I can talk forever. Hashtag an award, I want one. So what am I? I do a little of everything. I'm the coordinator, supervisor of educational technology, and you can read all the other things that I do. But previously, before I joined in this role last year, I was a librarian. So I bring a librarian background, and I supervise the librarians and the technology teachers. And I'm from New Jersey in the house. And so I'm also, you can read that I won the Bambi Award last year for School Librarian of the Year. And I do host a podcast that you may have heard with Jen Miller called Beyond Books. So if you haven't, right, check it out because we talk a lot about different things. So what I'm going to talk to you today about is how do you get administrators to buy into the idea of a makerspace? Because you know it, all of you, if you're sitting here, you want it. But I'm telling you, the administrators have no idea what it is, most of them. So how do you do that? Inquiring administrators want to know different things. They want to know, how does it relate to the curriculum? It's a big one. So how does it relate to the curriculum? STEAM, throw the word STEAM out there. It relates to STEAM, it relates to technology, ISTE technology standards, it relates to the next gen science standards that we have to incorporate. You name it, it relates to it. So make sure to show that to them because that's what they want to know. How does this relate to the curriculum? And it's not just making crafts because that's what they think it is. So if you can show them, look, it meets this standard, this standard, this standard, they'll be like, okay, now I get it. So do that because that is very important. The other thing they want to do is they want to move, you need to be able to move from playing to producing. And I got that line from Joyce Valenza and I loved it because they think that, what is that? They come in and they see these like cans of, the makey and all these different things out there. And they're like, what are you doing? You're just playing. And you're like, no, I'm not playing. I'm producing things. What am I producing? Show them what the kids are producing. And what has the Makerspace accomplished today? How did they accomplish that? What did they do? Take pictures, take videos. You saw all of these people out here took pictures and videos of what they did. They tweeted it out. They put it together and they showed it to their administrators. That is hugely important. I cannot stress to you enough how important it is to let your administrators know what's going on in your classroom. One of my teachers is sitting here now, and sadly, I can't get to her classroom every day, even though I would love to. But she's so sweet, and she texts me things. She'll be like, look, we're doing coding today in our class. Or, look at this little video. And then I feel like, oh, awesome. I still can be there. So do that to your administrators. Let them know what's going on because they want to know. And whatever you can share via Google Docs or whatever with them, do that because that's going to end up helping you. So the next thing, and maybe my last thing, is how much is this going to cost? They're going to ask you that question. How much is this going to cost me? And your reply to them is, How much can you give me? Okay? Because you can make it, as Diana said here, she found those old Connects in her classroom, she used those. I started my makerspace in my library, same way that Heidi did. I took my son's old Legos he wasn't using anymore, and I put them out there. And I made a little Lego area, and the kids started playing with the Legos. And they started building and designing, and that led to other things. Ask people for donations. People have Legos in their room. There's swap meets all over the place. I mean, we have a big one in our town on Facebook. I think a lot of other towns have stuff like that around. Ask around. Ask for, like, do you have any of these things? Because a lot of people have this stuff in their school, their houses, that they will give to you for free, like that coffee table. I mean, when I was in the high school library, I needed some new furniture. I asked around, got some furniture. So do that. Find stuff, ask people, but also, I mean, ask, like, reach for the stars. Tell them, like, hey, I really want, like, you know, the makey-makeys and the this and the that and the this. And then be okay if they're like, well, you can only have this much this year. But start building it up. And it doesn't have to always be about that toy. Like, yes, we all love that Raspberry Pi or those makey-makeys, and they will make your, you know, space really good. But if you start out with, like, smaller and you build, and guess what, if the administrators see what you're doing, they'll find the money to give to you. If we see that you're using it properly, then we'll move more money your way. It might not be that year, but in the next year's budget cycle. So start pestering them around, like, December, because that's when they have to get their budgets in. I'm giving you all the little secrets as an administrator now. But that's, like, a big one. So, like, you know, December-ish, start being like, hey, I really want this, and then they're willing to do it. And guess what? Look, I'm almost done. Okay, so you're gonna have time now for questions, but I am telling you, we're gonna come back at the end. So should we go to the questions now and then tell them at the end? Okay, we're gonna take questions, but at the end, we do have a little Cards Against Humanity clean edition for you to play. Clean edition. So, look at that. I just put it. Yeah. Yes.
All right, folks. So if you have any burning questions about makerspaces, how you can implement them in your school, specific things that you saw, maybe something you glanced in a picture and you want to know more about, now is the time to ask these experts. So if you have a question, raise your hand and I'm going to come around with the mic.
I'm curious about the Lego wall. How long do you let the children take things off and then put other things back? Because that's obviously always a concern, and how long their art can stay on display.
Well, we don't have any really formal rules about that. In general, the kids kind of have an honor code where if they build something really cool on the Lego wall, the other kids won't let anyone else take it down. I actually made a pixel art Mario, and then I took it down to fix one of the plates, and they got really mad at me and rebuilt it. So, but in general, it just kind of manages itself. You know, they'll put their name on the wall and different stuff. Sometimes if it's really crowded, I'll have my students help me take down, like, just the random bricks they can throw up there. And then every once in a while, we'll kind of clean a section off and make more room. So I don't have, like, a set procedure. The kids understand coming into the space that everything's kind of temporary, and that nothing's going to be permanently on display ever. Not ever, but, you know, permanently. But they also know that I've always got my phone on me, and whenever they make a project, they'll come find me, and I'll Instagram it, and I'll find it and share it out, and then the kids will tell all their friends to go look at Instagram. So they're still kind of getting, you know, lives forever on the internet, even though it might not live forever on the Lego wall itself.
Hi, I have a question about the Twitter station. Specifically, you have a special account for kids, or you use your own, and also how you manage it and any permissions or guidelines you have?
We have a school, like a library Twitter account that we'll be using for that. And the Raspberry Pi Twitter station is actually behind my desk. So it'll be good digital citizenship, but they'll have to come through me to be able to to be able to tweet, and then I'll check their tweet before they actually get to tweet it. But it'll be like real live digital citizenship. This is appropriate, this is not appropriate kind of communication, I think.
Yeah, and I also, when I was the librarian, I had a Twitter account. I highly recommend for librarians, you should be, if you are not, you need to have a Twitter account. You should have also an Instagram account, because Twitter is where the teachers are and the other educators, Instagram is where the kids are. So you should have that and be posting to that. And, you know, like she said, she posted out there and the kids get all excited. I mean, my son is still mad because I have more followers on my Instagram, and it's all his friends because I was a librarian there previously than he does. So, you know, that's the thing. You have that, but, you know, you post appropriately.
I'm a high school librarian, and my kids aren't going to be interested that much in Legos or anything. I need ideas to start my makerspace on a budget, and the cool ideas that would be interesting to high school students.
Yeah, some of the things we always do interest-driven is the thing. So whatever the thing that they're into right now, I know that Minecraft is a huge thing. Robotics, simple robotics is another one that they really get into. But another thing I would say is just see what they're interested, see what the current thing. I'm not up to speed on what the current thing is, but if you get them interested, I have to say that video, anything video related will instantly get their attention, because a lot of them want to be seen and they want to be heard, and they don't feel that they can do that, but they can through.
They need to activate the budget.
Right, but there's simple, you don't have to have a lot of equipment in order to do simple videography. But yes, the more you have, the more sophisticated things that you can do.
I mean, we built a high school, we started a makerspace in our high school too. My high school started that. And if you can get a 3D printer, I highly recommend it. It's been amazing. I got one for my libraries, and I just said, go out there and do it. And, I didn't give them really any steps, like, let's find out, what can we do? Well, it's taken off. I mean, the kids are designing stuff, they're making stuff. There's a form that they can fill out online to submit their designs, and then they get printed. The art teachers and other teachers have taken it over and really done amazing things with it. So in the high schools, I've seen that work well. I've seen little bits work very well. And even just puzzles and games. We have a chess table and a checkers table. And let me tell you, those do amazing too. There's always kids playing.
And I would piggyback just a little bit and just say, I was a former high school teacher, and there are plenty of free programs that you can use if you want to start digitally. Like, if you're using a PC, Microsoft Movie Maker is a free download, and it's a decent video software for them to start with. I think, and there are plenty of photo editing things online that you can put on computers. Scratch is something high schoolers can be interested in. So there's plenty of things that you can do if you have computers too in your library.
And there's also iMovie, which is pretty simple, but I think it costs $5 or $10, but that's relatively. Some of them, there's different levels of it.
We video is very good too.
And I have to jump in and say, ask them. You know who your nerds are. You know who to talk to. Talk to them, see what they're interested in, and sometimes even just giving them a place to come together and talk about what they're interested in and show each other what they're doing on their own can be a really great start. A good stepping stone to starting a makerspace.
This really goes with the interest question. You're doing such a great job with the inquiry based and the design thinking. Do you make intentional decisions with career interests at all?
Well, what I would say is that, I'll give an example. There was a young woman last summer who had never done anything with video at all, and
she was going into college and didn't have any, so this year was her first year of college. She had no clue what she wanted to do. She's a first generation college student, nobody else is gone, so she doesn't have a lot of things. She said, I really like this. I think I'm gonna do this. And she never had an opportunity to work with any of this equipment, or she didn't even know it wasn't really a tangible option for her as a career choice. You know, it's always firefighter, teacher, lawyer, you know, and so there's so many different opportunities and options that I feel like what we do in the libraries is to give them opportunities to see what they're good at. They don't even know that they're good at because they haven't had the opportunity to see it and work with it and touch it.
Okay, so if you are in a middle high school where you have a flexible schedule, how much direct supervision do you have to provide for those students who come in on their own to use different stations, I guess?
I'll go for this one. So with my library, I've tried to kind of construct it and put it together in a way where students can be pretty self-sufficient for the most part. So throughout the areas, I've got these little tabletop frames from IKEA, and I made simple, like really basic directions, like, you know, build something with Legos. If you want me to take a picture, come see me. Remember that someone else might take it apart, kind of basic stuff like that. And then with some of the other ones in the maker room itself, I've got little signs on the shelves, like these are little bits, you know, here's some basic thing to get started. I'm planning on adding some QR codes to those too, where they can scan it and get like a video about the basics of it. But for the most part, it's kind of student run. One thing that I have done is I've kind of worked with my student assistants and also with the kids in the after school club to have them kind of be leaders and like the point person for them. So when we'll have lots of groups coming in, like especially during lunch when I'll have 20 or 30 kids coming, my students are usually the ones teaching them. So I've never actually connected a Sphero to a phone because my kids have always been doing it and I've never actually had a chance to go do it. So they'll actually show the kid, like, here's the app you download, here's how you do this, you tap the ball and it does this. So I really tried to kind of cultivate student leaders with that and have them be the ones that kind of direct and do things as much as possible. And I'm there if they need it. You know, I'm supervising the whole library space in general, so obviously, you know, kids are throwing Legos at each other and then I deal with it. But, you know, it's just kind of like the same way that I manage the rest of the space. If the kid needs help finding a book, I help them find a book. If the kid doesn't know how to use little bits, I come help them with that. So it's just kind of an organic part of management of the whole space.
Yeah, and what I've seen in some of the libraries, what I've seen done is, especially with the little bits, they come in these cards. So you can literally like put the cards out for the kids and like make little directions and put the examples of projects or QR codes that link to videos or stuff that give them a little like one-page flyer that you put out, like here's to make, you know, here's an idea of how to make things, but allow them even to be creative. Because I think one of the biggest things we see with our kids is they're so big into following directions, like, or this is wrong, oh my God, I did it wrong, that they don't, and I don't want you to answer it for them. If you could take anything away from that today, Makerspaces should be all about failure and figuring it out, and not about answering it for them. So, you know, like, yes, you can put that video out there, but I always step back. And I was like, you know what? You figure it out. Or you know what? I don't know. Let's figure it out together. Because that, I think, is the best way to do it, because that's really what makerspaces are. Because we don't let our kids, I think they've raised in a society where they don't understand failure or how to deal with it.
I'll second that, because our space, when we started, it didn't work because nobody wanted to fail. They wanted to be right, and so it was all about, well, is this okay? How do I don't remember who was talking about the first day. I think talking about this did not work because they didn't know what to do, because they weren't being told what to do. And I think that is something that is really lost and it's needed. And so
and the older they get, the harder and harder and harder it is to get them to do something on their own if they haven't been cultivated to allow them to think for themselves. And so that's, I mean, that's what making, in my opinion, that's what making is to be able to think for yourself and create for yourself. And so that's really what we want to cultivate in these kids.
And I think with some of the things that I have in our makerspace, when I give it to the kids and I say, this just came in, I don't know how it works.
Yeah.
When I'm willing to say, I don't know what to do with it, but here I have confidence that you can figure it out. Yeah. They're a lot more willing to do that. And I had one of my big aha moments when the kids with the snap circuits put the instruction manual to the side and wanted to see what they could put together and figure out on their own. That's when your makerspace is going right. Yeah. All right, next question.
So it's actually a statement which will shock you. I'm down here and I just tweeted out, for $20 you can paint the wall with Bayer's Gamma Sector Green paint. It's a perfect chroma key for Green Screen Studios, and talk about, I would always say if it was a book, it would be by far our most popular item. It is constantly used, and it was literally $20 for a gallon of paint.
Green screen, gallon of paint. The chalkboard paint is not that expensive. Chalkboard paint, I had my library, I had different spaces with chalkboard paint all over it too, which I found good in a way because I could draw stuff on it, and kids don't have chalk. So like for my middle schoolers, nobody has chalk anymore. So I would only give them the chalk, like I held the chalk because I was still a little like scared if I didn't write. So, you know, she's got the whiteboard and they can get access to that a little more. So I went to the chalkboard route, and actually that's a little cheaper than chalkboard route.
But we use as collaboration boards on our tables. I went to Home Depot and bought, for $10, they have these whiteboards that they sell back by the pegboards, and they're $10 board, and it's about one for each table. And they are the most used item in the library.
And if you're not, I'm going to put a shout out there to Jennifer Lagarde. If you have not seen her MacGyver Your Library presentations or search her hashtag, you will learn a gazillion great ideas on how to fix up your library and make it makery as on the cheap.
Let's go.
Sorry.
Okay. I want to comment on just several different things. One is an observation I've seen with these puzzles with the younger children is that children don't necessarily know how to do puzzles. And it's an interesting thing if you stand back and watch, well, whatever age, trying to figure out what we maybe know is that shape, why the shape goes together, or what are the visual clues that mean that that piece goes in there. Just because it sticks out doesn't mean it goes in the hole, that sort of thing. And to me, it's really an opportunity to talk about vocabulary. You have to kind of stand with your hands behind your back to keep from putting the puzzle piece in there because they're being exposed to cause and effect and visual and shape clues. So that's all that learning. I've got two more things I want to mention. One thing also with origami is taking those, repurposing your books and cutting those old pages up and using origami. Just wonderful type of origami paper, and you never know what's going to turn out with the pages of the books that you're doing. And then going along with makey, and little bits, etc. It's really great to put all this together and see a cause and effect when the light lights up and the fan turns. But I think that with the standards and with the learning, what we also are trying to do is somehow know that you learn is a circuit, it's closed, it's open. What is this? And maybe it's just having resources around it that they can look it up. Or maybe the kids think that there's vocabulary, just the key words there, so they can start to relate to why this is happening. And that's building on their learning and those standards and just lifelong learning too. So that just extends it out. Not as we're teaching it, it's just making it aware that this is what's happening. Let's go out and research that and find out why it is not turning on or off, and looking at circuitry that has to be complete, can't be closed, or has to have whatever it is. I'm not a practitioner, but I think it's important with the use of information making. So
Yeah, no, jigsaw tape. I had a jigsaw puzzle area that was a huge hit by not only kids, but the teachers would come in on their breaks and they would do like start jigsaw puzzling because it would be like a relaxation. You can get those for really cheap. Jigsaw puzzles are great. There's a lot of coloring pages. Coloring pages. Everybody loves to color. Put out some coloring pages. Very simple.
Now, I will say with middle schoolers, someone will take one of the pieces
Yes,
of the
they
puzzle,
will.
so they can be the one to finish the
Yeah.
puzzle.
I did do that, but every time.
I'm gonna speak to you guys. I'm a high school librarian who has a 3D printer and a few makerspaces, but I haven't really organized anything formally yet. So I just tweeted out, if you're another high school librarian and you'd be interested in maybe like, I was thinking of doing something more of a monthly, like around themes, so it wouldn't necessarily be about the product you're using. So like, let's say we'll do an October challenge related to Halloween, or maybe, you know, something related to Poetry Month, or something I like to connect it with library, with what we're doing in the library or in the classroom, and just kind of throw it out there and put a deadline, and then maybe we can have a Pinterest page, or we could do, you know, so if anybody's looking for people to just do collaboration, my Twitter is personality, and I think Carrie signed up. I will Google Doc, and I just like was inspired right now.
I love that idea, and I will totally be signing up for it.
CCASSINELLI.
Okay, so along with that, I mean, clearly you're not the only one, because everybody's looking. So, smart people that do all these things.
They're not that smart.
So still a newbie. Like, if lots of us wanted to do this, like all over the place, where should we need a like landing page thing.
ISTE Librarian. ISTE Live Network. We'll put up,
Would that
but
be?
we'll take her Google Doc, so I'll work on that, because I'm the PD chair too, for the ISTE Live Network. So I will take and put on your website, we'll put on the website the sign up, and we'll try to do this, because we all do want to collaborate and get ideas from each other. So a place for you to connect, and Google Docs are great ways to do that, Hangouts are a good way to do that too.
And if you're looking for people to connect with on Twitter, I mean, that's definitely the place to be. I always just use the TL chat hashtag, and that's the best way to find a lot of group.
Yeah.
Hashtag Makerspace is really good.
Hashtag Makerspace too.
Do you rotate your items out, or do you just sort of leave everything out all the time? So for my space, I started with kind of rotating things at first when I had the different materials. But what I found was that the kids didn't like it when I stopped having a station. They would keep asking for it, and they would be really disappointed that they missed out on it. So I will have different featured activities that kind of rotate, but the other supplies are always still back in the maker room and available to the kids. So even though like we might be featuring hack your own bookmark one month or something, if the kid still wants to go and leave a pot holder, because that's actually like seriously popular with my kids. I kid you not, they love it. They know that the pot holder loops and stuff are back in the maker room, and they can go get it and pull it out and work on it. The only exception to that for me has been duct tape, because duct tape is more expensive than buying like robots. Because they go through it so quickly. So I actually did have to kind of cut them off from the duct tape and make that a temporary one, because we just ran out and I did not have the budget to buy more duct tape right then.
I had to cut them off on the Rex lace, because I was about to lose my mind. The Rex lace, I use this one because my assistant principal was my shop teacher when I was in middle school. And he had us use, it's Rex lace, REXLACE. And you do all these little braids and things and make keychains, and it was really cool. It was something for me to bring back that I remember from when I was in middle school. But it was to the point where they were sneaking out of class to come to the makerspace. So it was the 7th graders. I'm like, 7th graders are cut off for right now. But you do that, and then they come back with better attitudes.
But like rainbow loom too, we did rainbow looming with our kids, and I'm telling you, they loved it. and you leave that stuff out, and they'll make stuff. So that's a good one too. Oh, we are almost out of time, so we're gonna play. Come on, people. I lost the bet at a Cards Against Humanity. Well, somebody sort of bet me that I would not put one of these up here in my presentation. I'm like, you do not bet me anything because I take challenges. So it's Cards Against Humanity Makerspace Edition. Best answer to the tweet, tweeted to the ISTE Live hashtag, wins this gorgeous ISTE picture frame prize. It must be clean. I know, that sort of goes against Cards Against Humanity. And it must relate to ISTE or this presentation. Blank, good to the last drop at ISTE. You put in your hashtag, we will look it over quickly, we'll be monitoring in the next 2 or 3 minutes, and we will get back to the person, so you guys stick around for a second. What? Oh, I get to decide, because I came up with this idea. That's my one thing, is that I get to be the ultimate decider in this one. So make it funny, because I like good funny ones.
All right, so as you guys are tweeting out your responses to that, I'll go ahead and wrap up. Thank you guys so much for coming out. I hope to see many of you at the breakfast tomorrow morning. If you do not have tickets, I believe there are still a few left that you can purchase at registration. We're gonna have Shannon Miller in our annual meeting in the morning, so I hope to see you there. Thanks, everyone.
And you can come up and talk about it. We're not sharing from inside, just take a card. And if my phone loads with the ISTE Live hashtag, I will tell you what, or I'll tweet you, and then you can come to the breakfast tomorrow and get it if you're not here. Okay. Sure. Okay, go ahead.